Welcome to another edition of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at KU. Hello, we're back for another episode of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator for the KU School of Journalism and Mass Communications. Today we are joined by J School alum Matt Gardner. He is the Vice President of Growth at YinzCam. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, Steve. Good to see you.
I think you're pretty new in the job. I know you had a long, successful career with the St. Louis Blues. So how is the new job going with YinzCam?
Things are going great. I think this is week 4. A lot to get used to when you move into a new role, and after you've exited one that you've been in for 13 years. But an exciting road ahead from us, and looking forward to seeing where things go.
So you're with the Blues, like you said, for 13 plus years. Was it just time for a new change? Were you ready for a challenge? I mean, how did that change come about?
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for me to kind of figure out what the next chapter of my career was going to be. I think between the Blues and then before that, the Orlando Magic, I had 17 years on the team side. And over time, I felt like it was a good transition to segue into the sports tech side of things. I had known the team at YinzCam for a number of years, just having some contact with them and then becoming a client. They're the mobile app provider for the Blues. And just a really great opportunity for me to take things to the next level. Some of the work that I've been doing on the tech side of things, integrating with a lot of partners in the space, and finding new opportunities just to elevate the game of what teams are able to do with their digital experiences, and what we're providing fans to be engaged and connected with their teams.
So I know I'm full disclosure to people listening. I've known you for a few years. I remember you as a young sports writer at the Lawrence Center World. I knew you were always really big into sports, but how did you kind of combine, sports, digital, and kind of the fan experience? That seems to be kind of your sweet spot right now.
Yeah, I think it's just been an evolution over time. My career has never never been a straight line. I don't know that I really anticipated that happening. I think when I was young, I wanted to be a sports writer. I looked at some of the writers that I read on a weekly basis in Sports Illustrated and the Kansas City Star, and thought that was going to be where I would end up going. And then digital evolution just started happening, while I was at KU, and it just worked out that way to be tied into digital, and then really focusing a lot more on the strategy side of things, which kind of then morphed into emerging technology. And it's just been this evolution of kind of reinventing myself over time. But I think one thing I've discovered is that I'm truly a lifelong learner. I love putting myself in a spot maybe I'm not totally comfortable, to be able to challenge myself and find new opportunities, and teach myself new skills.
So you talk about teaching yourself new skills. Do you kind of learn as you go with the digital, or does that come pretty naturally for you? Or are you taking classes, or you just kind of like to experiment?
Definitely learn as I go. My first role out of college was with the ATP Tour, and based in Ponte Vedra Beach. And the ATP was bringing their digital operations in-house. They were having a company out of Germany update the website. Believe it or not, this was 2001, and the website was getting updated one time a week. Like, the rankings would be run on a Sunday night, and they would update the website with stories for the week and draws for next week's tournaments and rankings and prize money and everything. That's how it was being done. And obviously, as quickly as tech was evolving in the digital space, they knew they had to be on top of things. And so when I came to the ATP, it was more for an editorial role. I was doing a lot of writing and editing for their website, but also for some of their publications that they did for tournament programs, and different weekly newsletters that they had going on. But I had a chance to dive in and learn HTML and JavaScript and some different things. I saw it as where everything was going, and I just took an opportunity to jump in and learn from the people that had been doing it a few months before me, of modifying HTML web pages, and it just kind of grew from there.
Going back to your early days, like print, sports, are you still using some of those skills you developed back then? We talk a lot about transferable skills here at KU. I assume you still kind of use some of those skills from your time at KU and newspaper.
Yeah, I think is I go back to my time at KU and how things have um, changed for me over the years. Those basic things that you learn in the J school, communication being first and foremost, like you've got to find ways of communicating in multiple ways, through writing, sometimes through building a presentation, storytelling. Storytelling has been a massive part of my role. Is things have evolved, whether it's a digital platform, it's emerging technology that we're using. You got to sell through how this can create impact, what it's going to do, how it's going to be able to change the company, how it's going to improve the fan experience, drive new revenue, create efficiencies. All of those things from a KPI standpoint that an organization is going to be looking for, you got to sell those through. And sometimes that's through doing research. It's by creating the right type of narrative. So those same principles that you put into stories that you're writing, that you're looking to have published, those same sort of things transition with you very well throughout your career in a multitude of different ways.
And at YinzCam, how big is your team, or do you know how big it is yet? Is that kind of a work in progress?
Yeah, the team at YinzCam is about 70.
Oh, wow.
They've got their primary offices in Pittsburgh. They got a growing presence in the UK. For the most part, the company has been North American focused, and they do the team apps for 25 NFL teams. They've got 15 NBA, 19 NHL, 17 MLS, and growing. But now there's a lot of focus shifting towards Europe. They've got Premier League teams now in Championship and taking a lot of the success that's been done here in the US and North America over to Europe, while also part of my role, I think, is to drive new clients, but it's also to identify new products, things that we can bring into the marketplace that are going to create impact and find ways of assisting teams with some of those additional areas that they're looking to use some of the data that they've collected or improve their fan experience, making those things actionable and impactful.
Have you identified some of those new products yet? Are you allowed to say?
Working on it, definitely working on it. Lots of conversations right now. I think with the team at YinzCam, some of their clients, some of the counterparts that I know in the industry, just to understand what needs are out there. I think it's really important for me being on the team side for the last 13 years with the Blues that you get stuck in your own little funnel sometimes, right? I was in this NHL world for 13 years, and so I'm having conversations with other sports, NFL and NBA and MLS, to understand perhaps some blind spots that I have. I think the best way that you can truly identify where you can create impact and deliver new products is understand the full ecosystem, the problems that people have, the challenges that they're undergoing, the things that they're trying to solve, and then bring all that back together with your own experiences and formulate a plan on how you might be able to create some positive energy in the environment.
Do you ever stop back and reflect how the fan experience has just totally exploded in recent years? I mean, back in late '90s, early 2000s, yeah, you'd get your pretty much a print ticket, show up to the game, might hear the band play, a little bit of scoreboard activity. But now, I mean, it's a big time event.
I just got done teaching a series of classes this semester at Washington University, and part of what we discussed during those classes was how the environment of the fan experience has changed so much. I said when I started with the Orlando Magic in 2005, the business was still pretty simple. It was you sold tickets, you sold sponsorship, you got them in the building, you sold concessions, and you sold merch. And there were some auxiliary things tied to the business, but that was primarily it. And the thing that changed everything really was the iPhone. If you really think about it, the iPhone, people having technology in their pocket and how they utilize it. And ever since then 2007, technology has just exploded. And I think that's why I'm so excited to be in this space and where I feel like I've just kind of naturally transitioned this way is just, I love tech. I love kind of being on the cutting edge of things, playing with new toys. And seeing over time how we've been able to create impact on the fan experience and where technology has evolved in the industry has been truly exciting.
How was that teaching experience? Was that something you enjoy?
It was fun. I did a series of lectures on emerging technology. I did one on venue tech and one on fan experience and one on AI. And I've done guest speaking for classes for many, many years. This is the first time I've done a series of lectures, and it was exciting. It was great to have the class engaged and bringing their own experiences into it, talking about kind of the evolution of where things are going and how things are shaping up. And especially important is they're, going to be entering the workforce soon and if they want a career in sports, what they might expect.
I would think you'd had their attention. I mean, that class sounds fascinating. I hope they weren't sleeping.
No, it was great. There was a lot of discussion. The hour and 20-minute classes went by
Oh,
very, very quickly. So it was a great thing to be involved with. I'm glad I did it.
you touched a little bit on kind of the strategy aspect of your job and looking at your LinkedIn profile. You worked for a company called Lightmaker USA. And is that kind of the first time where you're kind of focused on the strategy? Or I was trying to pick up on that in your profile.
Yeah, that you're spot on.
Okay.
I had spent 7 years combined between the ATP Tour and then the Orlando Magic. And my roles there were, while they were digital in nature, they were mostly content focused. I was building on that, my journalism background and the work that I had done in the past. And I realized that as digital was continuing to evolve, there were a ton of people in the space that were coming in the same route that I did from with an editorial background and wanting to write for websites and everything. But I recognized as I started to get exposed more and more to the business that there weren't a lot of people that had understood strategy. And we worked with Lightmaker on a very small project when I was with the Magic, and I was just blown away by the thought process, the ideas, the way that they were bringing tech in. And I recognized that I kind of needed to take the time to better educate myself on digital and strategy and where things were going. So I made the decision to leave the Magic and join Lightmaker. I spent the next 3.5 years between two digital agencies. Lightmaker was more of a pure web development shop. And then I joined Mind which was more of a full service. They did social media strategies and email marketing and all kinds of things. And it was challenging. It was definitely challenging because it really took me out of my comfort zone, but it was probably one of the more impactful things that I've ever done. And I wouldn't have been able to do the work that I did for the Blues without making that transition, coming in with a very different mindset, while also getting exposed to clients outside of sports as well. We had some sports clients on the roster, but for the most part, it was non-sports. And the funny thing, Steve, you'll appreciate this. When I remember my freshman year at KU, my advisor was Professor Suzanne Shaw, and she sat me down in her office one day and said, "Matt, one of these days you're going to have to do something other than sports." And I kind of defiantly said, "I don't think so." And when I finally did something outside of sports, it had tremendous impact on me. And it challenged me in ways that I wasn't ready for. But when I came into the role with the Blues, and they were looking specifically for somebody who could bring strategy into their ecosystem of evolving where they went with sponsorship and ticket sales and some of these other things above and beyond the content part of the role, I was prepared and I was excited and I was ready to go. And that kind of set the groundwork for what I did for a decade plus.
What do you kind of consider your biggest career break? I know you've kind of mentioned how you seem so in tune to your network. I mean, like, seems like you've had a connection with the company, and then you kind of gravitate towards them. I mean, can you talk a little bit about, utilizing that network and just kind of being aware of those people you have partnerships with?
I think my biggest break actually happened when I was 16. I saw a classified ad. I'll take it back one step. I was in English class my sophomore year, and my English teacher said, "You're a really great writer. Have you ever thought about doing more with that?" Never in my mind had that ever entered my thinking. And shortly after she said that, I saw a classified ad in the Emporia Gazette that they were looking for a stringer, and looking for people to come in. And I went into the Gazette. They gave me a box score and some ideas, and I wrote out a little story, and thinking I don't really know what I'm doing. I've never written anything like this in my entire life, but I'm going to give it a shot. And sports editor Brent Maycock, who you know well,
Okay, you grad,
uh,
yeah.
called me up and said, "Congrats, you got the job." And I became a stringer at the Gazette at 16. And my first evening going in, and waiting for area preps to call in with
Nice.
their scores and writing up little summaries. Brent told me, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to fill you in on something. Like, when we put out that classified ad, we were looking for college students. Like, we had no idea you were a high school student." And that just lit that fire under me,
Yeah.
that I knew I had to be brave, had to be bold, had to put myself out there. And so when I knew I was coming to Lawrence, I reached out to the Journal World and the wonderful Chuck Woodling, and wanted to work for the Journal World. And I did the same thing at the Kansan. I met with the advisor at the time, and was lucky enough to come in and start writing for the Kansan right away. And it's just been kind of a cycle ever since then, ever since I was 16 years old, that I think I've just been fortunate. Sometimes it's just pure luck, and sometimes it's connecting and networking with people. You never know when you're going to meet somebody that you're not going to do business with them in one capacity or another right away, but years later, like, you remember that connection, and sometimes it just works out in the right way.
You mentioned KU alum Brett Maycock, another KU alum. I think you worked closely with the Blues. Danita Victor, correct?
I did, absolutely,
I think I
yeah.
just saw she just celebrated her fourth year with the Blues.
Denise is wonderful. She's doing
Yeah.
a great job with our Blue Note Productions team. Been excited to watch her grow in her career and her journey, and no doubt she's going to continue to do some wonderful stuff.
What and also notice on your KU link, your LinkedIn profile, you do some work with the football experience committee at KU Athletics. Can you touch a little bit on that? And I assume it has to do something with the fan experience.
Yeah, I've known Jason Booker and Colin Sexton with KU Athletics for quite a while. They were putting together a committee. I think it started in late 2023, to bring some people within the industry, the KU community, the athletics community, some season ticket holders, just a variety of people to get together and discuss, as they were reimagining David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium, what the new experience should look like. And so they brought everybody together. I came to Lawrence, had a meeting, a brainstorming session across a multitude of different categories, everything from what pregame should look like, to parking, to what songs should be played, what pyrotechnics, anything and everything. Like, there was a great opportunity for them to look at the full experience of attending a KU football game in this magnificent new facility, and figure out the best way forward to create an incredible experience. And so I enjoyed being part of that. I think thankful mostly because I'm based here in St. Louis. We did Zoom meetings so I could be a part of them, and just to be able to talk through things, hear different ideas, share some of my experiences from working for the Blues, how we did game entertainment, how we tied into some of our other systems, and then other things I had just seen in the industry. It was really impactful. I've seen a couple of my ideas that I threw out there are already being iterated as part of the new experience. So that's really exciting, and it's a new era for Kansas football, and I'm really excited to see where it continues to go.
So what ideas are they looking for? Or what ideas of yours have they used that I can be looking for?
Oh, I don't want to throw out there. I'm not gonna be a clout chaser, but
Oh,
no, it's just good. For instance, like, there was a pyro thing that I saw at St. Louis City SC actually did, that I said, wow, like, this just is a great way, I think, to be able to kind of bring a different experience in there and have a little bit of an ooh and ah type fashion. So just little things like that, I think, can make small impacts. The timing of when you do things in game, how do you transition from something Uh, there's little things I think that can kind of create really strong impact. I think they're probably looking at things now and after a few games and making tweaks and adjustments and figuring out the new flow of things. And so it's always great to have a network of people to run things by, and I'm just really appreciative that they included me in that process.
So Matt, can you ever go to a sporting event and just watch the event, or are you always looking for, hey, they can do something better? I mean, how's your mind work when you go to a sporting event?
The funniest thing I think starting out at 16 and sitting in the press box is that when I go to sporting events as a fan, especially with my wife, she has to remind me that it's okay to cheer because I've sat, I don't know, I gotta guess the number is 75-80% of my life has been spent in press boxes going to sporting events. And so, yeah, I'm always taking things in. If I'm going to a new venue for the first time, I try to get there early so I can like walk around and snap photos of things and look at different things and not have my phone out the entire time. But yeah, my mind is constantly just going the overall experience, things that I'm seeing, and oh, that's a great idea. I love that. I'm gonna make a note of that. But the biggest thing for me has always been like just reminding myself that I can cheer when I'm there as a fan because I've just been so used to being on the other side of the equation for so long.
That is a tough transition. I mean, I did sports 16 years, and um, yeah, people go, why you never cheer? I mean, I do clap from time to time, but I just so trained not to do that, and I'm always looking at the clock, thinking about deadlines too, and
Uh-huh.
took me a
Yeah.
while to get out of that habit. So, well, hey, thanks for sharing your career story. I kind of want to move on to our Fast Five feature. Hey, there's a great photo of you that you shared. I think 2019 when the Blues won the Stanley Cup. You're holding the Stanley Cup. So how heavy is the Stanley Cup, and did you drink out of that?
I think it's, if I remember right, it's like 40 pounds.
Oh wow.
That photo is I was on the ice, TD Garden after Game 7 in 2019. One of those just happened to be in the right place at the right time moments to be able to raise the cup. Um, uh, it didn't feel like 40 pounds at that moment. I think with adrenaline going, like if you see that photo, I've got one of my fingers extended because the one thing I didn't want to do is be the guy that dropped the cup. So I had a strong hold on that, but yeah, amazing experience. One of the best things I think that could have ever happened working in sports is just winning a championship like that. Everything that went along with that entire next year for us was just phenomenal. And having some time with the cup with my close family and friends, just memories that I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
Who's your all-time favorite Jayhawk?
Oh my gosh, that is a tough question. I got to go back, I think, to those formidable years when you're as I was getting ready to embark on my career as a Jayhawk, and for me, it's always been Jacques Vaughn.
Okay.
I still think about that 96, 97 team and
Yeah.
just think what if. I remember so many details about that season with the was I think a double overtime loss at Missouri, one loss going into the tournament, and then dropping to Arizona. I still think to this day, at least since I've been on this planet, that that's the best team KU has ever had. And I truly wish that that would have been a year we won the championship because that team was just incredible.
Was that probably your high school senior year?
High school senior year,
Yeah.
yeah. Jacques
Yeah.
Vaughn, Scott Pollard, Ray LaFrance. Oh
Yep.
yeah. Oh boy, that was something else.
Just had two losses that year.
Paul Pierce, can't forget Paul Pierce.
Yeah. That was a great team. So when you were a student, where were, or even when you come back to Lawrence now, where's your favorite place to hang out in Lawrence as a student or when you come back now?
When I come back now, still like going to Jefferson's. Get some wings, hang out on Mass Street. Mass Street, I think, has always been kind of one of the things that my wife and I always like to do when we come back to Lawrence. Just, we got an hour to kill or so, walk down Mass and see what new shops, see what shops are still there. I mean, funny enough, like the last time we were there a few weeks back for a KU game, We spent time just walking in that antique mall there on Mass, because that thing's been there for decades, and it was just kind of a fun experience and something to do.
So Matt, what is your favorite in-game fan engagement activity? What still kind of gets you excited? Can you kind of pinpoint one that really connects with you?
Well, the one at the Blues that we became famous for was the lookalike cam, and that picked up a ton of traction on TikTok. And there was a lot of people that were talking about us. Funny thing about that is we had been doing that for like 15 years,
Yeah.
and it just, it was always a fun feature. It was one of our most sought after things from a sponsorship standpoint. So the moment for forever, it was sponsored by Famous Footwear and it was called Famous Lookalikes. Perfect tie-in. And the moment that they decided not to renew their deal, like people were lined up, like waiting to have that feature. And now you see it all over the place. There are so many teams that use that same sort of feature now. You see videos all over social media. It gets a lot of traction. And so that's always fun. When those camera guys happen to find the right person, it just gives you a little bit of chuckle. It's just always a really great thing to, see part of the overall experience.
Did they ever get any negative feedback like I look nothing like that person? Did that ever happen?
Fans will tell you, fans will either cheer or groan, depending on how well you do. And I give those cameramen and women a ton of credit. Like they get that sheet of the list, and they're constantly throughout the entire game scanning and making notes of where that person is. Sometimes you hit a home run and you get an incredible series of lookalikes, and other times you strike out. It's just the way it goes. You never know how it's going to work that night.
Well, let's set me up for my fifth and final question. Who's a Matt Gardner celebrity lookalike?
Oh my gosh. That's a good question. I think if I had to pick someone to play me in in a movie or something, I'd probably go Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. Nice.
Say maybe that's, we'll stick with the Matts on this one.
So you think that'd get a big applause there at the arena? If they showed you and Matt Damon side by side.
We'll have to find out one of these days.
Well, hey Matt, thanks for sharing your time and your experiences. Again, it's been fascinating to watch your career track and remember you from your early sports writing days. And always like to close with the cheers and keep up the great work, Matt. Cheers.
Thank you. Rock chalk.